Good morning. My name is Jen Arcaro in the training department. Welcome to STI's webinar on our ChartMaker mobile app. We will review today how to sign up and set up your own app and the basics for how to use it on your cell phone. Anyone can load this, doctors, technicians, staff. For the providers, you can use the app to check your schedule, even to call a patient from out of the office. No more waiting on office staff to text you a patient phone number or a pharmacy number for a callback. You may add in charges and diagnosis codes for hospital and nursing home patients. This is password protected and HIPAA secure. And please don't hesitate to call or email software support if you have questions after this webinar. So let's begin. To start, you will go to our website and click the enrollments link and find the mobile app link, or you can use that direct website that is listed here on this page. You only need to enroll one time per office, no matter how many doctors will be using the system. We just need one enrollment to turn on and set up your mobile app to sync with your server. The next several options, steps, we will review with more details on each page. So, first, to invite your staff to use the app. In Practice Manager, one administrator needs to go to Admin at the top, Administration, Mobile Administration, and they get to this page. You'll simply highlight each user one at a time, fill out on the right side their unique email address, select any and all practices that they need to have access to, and click Send at the bottom. What that does is send the staff an email welcoming them to our STI mobile app and giving them a register button. They'll see this little register now purple button in their email. Each user receives their own email, and it allows them to create their own HIPAA secure password on their computer for use in the app itself. The login ID for each user will always be their own unique email. That's the login, and they'll create their own password. If they don't do this within 48 hours, you'll have to go back to that slide before and send them another invitation. So please also tell your staff to keep this information safe. You always want to remember to follow HIPAA regulations. Your patient data is only as secure as your staff behavior. Step 3. Now it's time to grab your own cell phone and look up our app. You'll receive a second registration email, which gives you the link of what to search on either iTunes or Google Play Store. You'll download the app on your phone, and when you start it up on your phone, you'll need that password you just created. The login, again, will be your email address, and you may click this little green remember email if you like, so that you don't have to type that every single time that you pull in to this app. The last step for a manager to do, so only one staff person needs to do a little bit of setup that we have. On the home page, you'll click the medical icon, that caduceus picture on the top left, and hit Settings. So I'm going to show my own cell phone for that so that we can do it live here for you. So you'll click the caduceus and hit Settings. The first option is change password, so you may do that if you'd like to change your password, but it's only the changing the password for the user whom is logged in. The next 3 items you're setting will be seen by all the users who use your software on the app. Set default schedule. This is where you'll take any of your providers and select the main provider. If you don't have a main provider, you can just simply select the first alphabetical provider. every user can switch their provider at the time that they need to. And any user can switch between providers at any point. I'm going to go back to that caduceus, and then we'll go to user preferences. What this does is select your practice that is the default. If you only have one practice, you'll simply click on your one practice. If you have more than one, you'll select the main practice, but again, it's the same as provider. You may always switch between practices as needed. And the last item would be back up in the caduceus, settings, procedure list. So this is where we can set a charge slip of sorts for your billing, so that if a provider will be entering CPT codes and diagnosis codes to send for billing on patients they're seeing outside of the office, you can set certain codes in this area like a charge slip. I have two practices, so I'll click on that first practice, and these will be the charge slips that I set up. So if I click nursing home, it would show me the CPT codes that I generally use when I go to the nursing home. This just makes it a lot simpler. When my provider is going to bill on the cell phone, they will have a quick list. To add your own quick list, there is a create list at the top. When I click the plus sign, it asks me which practice does this go to. I'll hit create, and then I can name the list up here and add procedures. So I can attach any procedures depending on what your office needs. You can set these per provider if that is also a significant difference. You could put the provider's name up here as the type of list. When you add procedures, you can add by description or by code, whatever's faster for you. Right now it's looking for description, so if you started typing nursing home visit or hospital, or you can click on the little red icon there and change it so that it will search by CPT code. Then in here, we can type 992 or whatever the codes you're looking for and hit the glasses. That will take me quickly to my codes that I would need for this super bill. Think of it as a little super bill or charge slip. Okay, and if you need any help with that, please don't hesitate to call support. Any user can set up these super bills, but usually it is just one person who needs to come in, make these special procedure lists for the office, and anyone in the office will be able to see all these lists that you create. Okay, I'm going to go back to that little home screen. So let's talk about how we'll use the app itself. So, and behind here, I'll give you a little kind of cheat sheet of each icon that we have in the system. We also, on our website, have a quick reference card and a long manual about every item in this mobile app for you. So let's cover how your provider or staff will use the phone. This connection is live, so there is no waiting for your cell to sync up with an appointment change or a phone number added to the patient tab. Literally, once you check on that appointment or chart again to refresh it, the new information is already there. The home screen will be this on the right. It shows your schedule, patient, and charge capture area, and the newest item is the rounds list, and that would be for your hospital or nursing home billing. So I'll review all four of these options. These are ways to search your patients. So I'll click on the patient item, and you may be searching here when it's a weekend and a patient is calling you about a medication, so you're not dealing with an appointment list, and you'd like to give them a ring back. You could search by last name, first name, or you can hit the little icon, the red icon, and change to search by account number or date of birth or phone number. Whichever information that you have, you can type in here and search. So I'll start typing by last name and hit the glasses, and that will give me anyone that has that name. And it does show their date of birth here and their account numbers. You can verify that you are going into the correct patient chart. When I click on that patient chart, it will show me, my patient demographic screen with that same information, the date of birth and account number. But I also have contact information I can open up. If this patient has more than one phone number, it will show there for me. And because it's blue, if I click on that link, my phone will start to dial that phone number. I have information about insurance, and anywhere there's a little arrow, I can get more details about that insurance. And then the pharmacies, if you do use our EMR ChartMaker Clinical, you'll have an option to see what pharmacies are on the chart, including the address and their phone number, so that you could get quickly to that pharmacy phone number. Appointments as well. If you use our appointments on Practice Manager, you'll be able to see the last and the next appointment in this chart. And the healthcare proxies is the last item that you can see on this patient screen. If you enter those in either ChartMaker or in Practice Manager, you can see that information here, which would help you if another person was calling on behalf of this patient. You would know whether you can share chart information with that person. There are 4 icons at the bottom. The patient icon was the default when we came in. Health would take us to the face sheet of your EMR chart. So this gives you, if you use our electronic medical records, advanced directives if you have those in the system for this particular patient, allergies if there are any, and also extra notes if you do put in reactions or how mild, moderate, severe about an allergy. You can give that, and when was that originally put in for your patient. Medications will show here, so anything on the face sheet of your patient screen, and with the drop down arrow you can see when were those put in and a little more details about each script. And then diagnoses. So those would show here if you have been writing notes on the EMR side, any of your note diagnoses would be shown here. The third little icon at the bottom is charges. This would show you if you had sent charges from the mobile app for this patient. So it shows the facility where you saw the patient, the date of service, CPT code, and a list of the ICD-10s. And then this would scroll up and down if you had more visits. If you happen to see the patient today, you could even bill it again directly from this page with that little chart copy feature. And then the next little icon is the records icon, which shows you the EMR side, the notes that you can see in the system. So it will show you the name and the date and the folder that a note is in. You can go directly to a certain folder if you'd like to. You can click on this folder option and then either look for labs or look for progress notes, whatever folder it is that you'd like to limit it to. Now it will pull up just that one folder. And I can click on a note for it to open up that clinical note for me so that I can scroll through and see what I'm looking for, maybe vitals or information that I typed in there myself. Oh, excuse me. Or something that somebody else wrote on my chart. Sorry, this is a live cell phone. Okay, so then I'm going to go backwards to our little caduceus and the home screen again. So that all was gathered from going through the patient search icon. So in essence, you got to all 3 of the little areas here, patient, schedule, and charge, through that first patient icon. But if that may be a roundabout way, if you do indeed need to look at your schedule. So to look at the schedule directly, you would click on Schedule. This will assume your own name here if you are set as a provider for your username. If not, it will assume the default provider like mine is, but you can switch to any provider and then simply click on that provider's name at the top and it will switch your schedule for you. You also can switch the day So it is assuming today, but you can then switch to tomorrow or look at yesterday using these arrows here. If you go to multiple locations, you can click on the little red at the top to filter either by practice or by scheduled type. If your office has two or more different locations, you would have them listed here, and then you could look at your list just for one of those locations if you needed to separate it. So once you're in the appointment area, you can click directly on the patient. It will take you to the chart details of that patient for the appointment itself. So if you did have messages or notes on the appointment, they would show here. But to quickly get into that chart, if you needed to, for example, if you had to call the patient because you had to reschedule quickly, let's say the power is out at your office, you're calling the very first patient, their phone number is here on this front screen. So you can simply click on that and it will dial out for your phone number. But if you needed the patient chart for a little more information, you can click on the blue link, which is her name, and that takes you as if you simply searched her name from scratch from the patient side. So it gives you, again, their demographic screen, contact information if she had more than one phone number, her appointments last time and the next time, and also the same icons at the bottom. Health, which gives you your face sheet of the EMR side, charges, which would show you the history of your mobile charges, and records. So that will give you all of her records. Now, just that being said, we still do not have electronic labs showing here, nor do we have scanning, that you may have some hospital results that were scanned in or things that came outside of your office and you scanned into the chart. Those should be coming in another release, but right now there is a little information icon here that lets you know this chart may be incomplete because we are not able yet to show those scanning things. This is simply templates, although the results tab is giving electronically entered lab results, but not scanning lab results. So for me, I don't have anything electronically being put in these test patients. But the two icons at the top, notes and results, those would both be electronic templates and electronic labs if you have an interface with one of our labs. Okay, so let's go back to our home page, Caduceus Home, and we'll look at the charges icon. So going directly into this charge capture, it does ask you, it will ask me to search a patient that I want, but it assumes that this is the provider I'm looking at because I searched her last today. If you are a provider, this will have your name here, and it will give you your daily total of the day. This is a new feature that we have, and it will show if you knew you saw 17 patients today outside the office, you would want to make sure you have your 17 patients showing. If not, you would scroll up and find who is not here that maybe you did not send the charge. If I haven't started today, of course, it will be 0. If I'm seeing a patient whom I've seen recently, like this first icon, this first patient that we'll start with, I have two options. I can copy the chart CPT and diagnoses that I used in the past, because it's very similar today, or even exactly the same except for the date of service. This is my quick key to copy that. Or if it's brand new type of visit and different diagnosis codes, I may want to hit the plus sign. That starts me from scratch. So in general, I think you'll be copying, if it's the second, third, fourth, fifth time you're seeing the same patient, you'll be copying at least some of these diagnoses. So it will make your life easier if you use the little copy option. And what happens is, if I'm using the same CPT code, I can simply leave it there. If I need a different CPT code, I can click on that, and then I have my options. So at the bottom, and I'm sorry this is fuzzy, there we go. At the bottom I have 3 ways to look up CPT codes. The favorites are my own personal favorites that I've created myself, which I haven't shown you how to do yet, or the list, which is what my manager of the office may have put in. These are my little charge slip lists, as we had seen before. So every user or every provider sees the same star list, and they can simply go to the charge slip area and choose what we need. So if I'm discharging the patient today, I could choose that. Now, if I'm doing something altogether different, I can go to the search and I can search anything. This is the entire CPT list that you have in your billing system. You can search from scratch by diagnosis, or you can switch with your little red icon and search by CPT code. So depending what's more comfortable for you. If you already know the beginning of the CPT code, then you would search there. So those are your 3 searches. The favorites, the list that every provider has, or the search. Now, the same works for diagnosis. If this is the these are the diagnoses I need, I'm good and I'll be finished. But what if I needed to take away one of these because it wasn't pertinent to today? I can click here and it shows me the 3 where I can simply take one off if it's not pertinent for today. And I can add more. So the recent, at the bottom, you have 4 options here. The recent shows me anything that I've used on this mobile app here. The face sheet shows me anything that I have used in the EMR side. So if this is a hospital-only patient or nursing home-only patient, as this particular test one is, I don't have anything in the EMR because they've never come to my office location. And then the search allows me to search the entire IC10 book. So I can search again by description is always the default, or I can change that and search by code. I also can simply search by the chapter in the book. So if I know that I'm looking for something in this nervous system chapter, I can simply open that and open each area as I'm familiar with, and I can go find these things and then select them. So whatever is easier. So that's actually 3 different ways to find a diagnosis for you. And then you can hit this little review. And then I would simply hit OK. Now my back screen here, I'm going to switch behind us because I do have that little icon there going. Those are just some description of that diagnosis bottom that we just looked at. Now the last thing to know on the charge capture, additional charge details. This would allow me to change my date of service. So if on the mobile app, I'm really putting in yesterday's visits, if I didn't have a chance to finish, I can change the day by clicking here and going to the calendar, and it can switch the day for me. If I know I need to add a modifier, I can click on the select a modifier and I can pop that in here. These are the modifiers already in your own system. So they will not be the same as what you see here. You may have different modifiers in your system, or more than I have. The practice may be needing to be changed if your patient is attached to both practices or multiple practices in your system. The billable units, if this wasn't an office code, but it was a procedure, you may need to change that to 2 or 3, depending on what type of units that you need. And then also the last little item, can't get that off, there we go, is the case. Sorry, there are 2 more things. If my patient had a workers' comp or no fault or IME case, I may be changing the case here. These things go to billing on the practice manager side. So you do want to make sure your case is the correct information because the case is what holds the insurance. So workers' comp patient will go to completely different insurance than what the patient screen has for their medical claims. The comp claims go somewhere else. And the enter a comment spot is also a little extra for you to pop in some notes for the biller. This does not go out to insurance companies, but it is for billing. And if your keyboard has a little microphone on it, you can click that microphone and it will start typing whatever your instructions are for your billing department, and they will see that on the charge that's pending while they review your charge before they save it. So it's a perfect way for you to add a diagnosis that you're not looking for or you're not finding, or even a CPT code that you did not find. You can verbally give them those instructions here to add those codes for you. And that will add a note into your charge. So you always can go scroll back up, review what you're doing, and hit the send charge. We took out our units. And it should give you a little information like that, which is good. Send charge. Perfect. Okay. It does stay on the screen for you in case you also did some type of procedure, if I had to put in an EKG or reading an MRI. So I can stay on this page with the same patient. The facility will stay the same as well for me so that I can continue on with that same patient. Or I can cancel if I'm going to the next patient and go back to my main screen. So this is my provider screen. And actually, because I changed the date to yesterday, it's telling me I don't have any charges for today, but I do see my yesterdays from here. You'll always, these here do not disappear, so you'll always see your history more than just today on this screen. One thing from this area, if I do not have a patient who is being seen again from recently, I can hit the plus sign at the very top. So this allows me to search for any patient at the top. And then I can find my patient and put in a charge for this patient. So this charge in particular would be from scratch because I haven't seen this patient on the mobile app before. So I would simply hit enter procedure in the blue icon here. My favorites are here. The lists, and I'd be able to click on what it is that I need. Now let me show you how you can add favorites. I'll come back to this screen. These favorites came from searching from scratch. So if we wanted to add certain things, so I'm going to go to search, and we'll just switch to CPT code. So when I'm searching for certain CPT codes that I know I personally use all the time, and not for anyone else to see, but my own little mini list, I can select things that I find in the search that I'm finding from scratch. So you may do this the first couple weeks that you're using the mobile app. You can find these items, and if you click on the heart, it will keep them now for you in your favorites area. And you may not do this too much because this screen then gets pretty long, and it's in CPT code order. So you'd be able to use, excuse me, I clicked on that too fast, search through and find what you needed. But the list option, which everyone can see, is a much more organized way to put it if people need to share. So if multiple providers use the same CPT codes for hospital visits or nursing home, they make a lot of sense to put in the list area, because then you can organize them in whatever manner you desire. The favorites is things that you're going to use all the time, but they are just your own favorites. So I'll click on one of them. The enter diagnosis, that would take you from scratch. And if I've never seen her on the mobile, it will be blank here. If I've seen her in the EMR in the office, it would show here. And if not either, I would come to the search, and then I can simply look. So I can search for whatever it is that I need to search for by description, or hit that little red icon to pull that. And then I can select it and hit review. So this shows me all the items up to 5 that you're going to attach. Good. And then you would hit OK. And if you needed to, you could open your additional charge and switch the date or add a modifier or enter a comment. If you don't need any of those things, you don't have to open that at all. You simply can hit send charge. And then you'd be finished again. So let's go back to the last item. I'm hitting the caduceus and home. Let's look at this rounds option, and I'm going to switch the screen back here to you. Okay. Now, in the rounds, you will see patients here similar to the appointment tab, but it will show you patients that you have as admission dates in the practice manager side for each location. So if I open up my Albany Medical Center, if that is a nursing home, it may not have had any patients who were admitted in the last month because it is defaulting to the last month. So I can click on that date and I'll go backwards a year or even two. If this was nursing home, I may have long-term patients that have been in there several years. So this lets me know I have 3 patients in this nursing home where I need to see them and put in charges for them. So this patient, the top patient, I can copy. If I've billed for her before, I can copy this little icon, or I can do the plus sign. So generally you're going to copy. So you would hit the copy. It shows me what I've billed before, and sorry, this is a test, so they're not really relevant. And I simply would say that I want to copy, and it would let me pull it in. I could send the same thing, or I can click on it and change to something else, review, and OK. And that lets me send the charge. And then when I go back with that little arrow at the top, it goes back to my patient list. It marks it that I have seen the patient today. So that if I do have a little bit longer list, I can at least verify all the patients that I have marked charges for. Now, possibly she is not available for me right now because she's down getting a test done or something. There's a little ellipse icon, and I can click on that here to say that I skipped her. And then I can go back. So that simply means she's still there, but I wasn't able to see her today for whatever that reason is. And then I would go to my next patient. Now, if my next patient I was discharging, I could copy my last visit and change the CPT code to discharge. And I also can mark him as discharged. And what that allows me to do is put in the discharge date. So, and that will fill out for Practice Manager for you, which is a nice new feature that we have just added because a lot of offices were asking for that functionality. From the mobile app, I can mark the discharge date, and it will go back to Practice Manager for me. If it's not today, because it is defaulting to today, I can mark it as whatever date it is. But if it is today, it's nice and quick. I simply hit OK. And that will mark this patient now as discharged. And he is off of this list, but if you notice at the bottom, my rounding list is on the left, and to the right, I have my list of discharged patients in the last month. So if I did change that date a little back farther, if I needed on my mobile to see the other patients I have discharged, I can do that. I can switch the date at the top. The range is only going to look for the last week of discharge. So that allows me 2 different lists going for each location. I can click on a location, see my rounding list of patients who are in there, and my discharge list of patients either I discharged or maybe another provider discharged. It lets me see those items. Now, if you're on your mobile app and you're not seeing any patients here, I'll show you where that's coming from. In the Practice Manager side, our rounds button on the mobile app is looking at this area on the patient demographic screen. There's a hospital button, and that allows you to enter the admit date and the location of where that patient was admitted, and also later put in the discharge date, or you can fill out the discharge date on the mobile app, and that allows you to do it there. So this is something that your front desk staff or a biller in-house can have that entered. If you weren't using it before, it wasn't a required field to do hospital billing, although it is helpful if you have long-term hospital or nursing home billing. It is helpful because this date goes into the charge screen for you, which is a required field for hospital billing. But if you see patients just one night, one day, you won't necessarily need to use this hospitalization button. Okay, now for the billing department, they will see any charges that you have sent from the mobile app. They see it here in the pending charges subtab of the charge screen. So what they see, the account number, the case, the date of service, procedure code, ICD-10, and your note. So if you did record yourself or write down a note, a part of that charge screen, the biller will see that right here. And when they double click this, they also see a longer version if your note was very long. That note can be quite long. It has a lot of characters it can hold. And they also can manually check your work, maybe switch diagnoses in the order of them. If something needs to be more priority, they can flip them for you. They're simply reviewing what you have done. They can add modifiers, they can add referring physicians, and the computer will add pre-cert numbers if that's also part of your patient chart. And then they will save your charge. So the charge you're sending in the mobile app is not going out the door to insurances until it's reviewed here by a biller. And the bottom screenshot is also what you could pull or a biller could pull if they simply wanted a list of all the charges that had been sent over today. And there are 2 little videos about those lists as well on our website. Okay, so let's wrap up. We had our main screen with the access to patient, charge capture, and schedule, and then that new rounds button. It's very convenient to get to the patient right from any of those areas and look at appointments or get a phone number or even enter charges. So these are the recent updates we had was the list that I did show, the list of the charges you have already sent today and previous days. And also seeing the chart notes on your mobile app is a fairly new feature as well. So in the future, we hope to add some more features. The to-do list that you use between practice manager and clinical, we hope to add that to the mobile app someday. The appointments, the ability to add new appointments, and to see those chart scans. Those are not yet slated for releases, but it is something that we are looking to do in the upcoming years. And I thank you so much for your time, and don't hesitate, again, to call software support if you have questions or if you're having trouble setting up your system. Their number is 800-487-9135 and extension 1 for software support. Thank you again for your attention.